We've been fighting a long time, and we have all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. But you are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Ave Maria Stella, Dei Mater Alma, atque semper Virgo, Felix te porta.
Everybody, stay with Sons Fidelity. Sebastian and Rosario Konarski? Almost got it right.
Yeah, almost. Konarski. I've heard it. Konjarski, Konarski. I've heard it so many different versions.
He's a Boston guy. No one cares.
Boston guy, right.
They're friends with my brother, so my brother calls me up, tells me about these guys, and tells me, I say, yeah, sure, no problem. Have them contact me. Forget about it. So, Sebastian Rosario, welcome. Good morning, wherever you are. So how are you guys? What you got? Who are you guys? Why did my bro tell you guys to give me or get a hold of me or me to get a hold of you or however that happened 2 weeks ago?
Well, we talked to your brother, Father Cunningham, Father Michael, and we told him that we want to start our own independent film production company. And we told him some of our plans, and he went, "That's amazing. That's brilliant. So let me give you Steve's number. Let me call him up first." And that was that.
Did he say brilliant? Because I'm immediately thinking of the Guinness commercials right off the bat. Brilliant!
He didn't.
No?
No. He was it was a Sunday evening, and he was exceptionally tired because we have a lot of masses on Sunday.
Yeah. Here's a little busy.
We attend a very large parish.
Here's a little busy.
Yeah.
Sometimes he makes, he tells me once in a while, there's nothing to do here. So.
So how'd you guys get started in acting?
Well, so I was always an actor. I started out acting actually when I was a child. So I grew up in Boston. I grew up actually in the North Shore, Salem, Massachusetts. And I went to school 6 days a week. Monday through Friday was regular school, and Saturdays I went to Polish language school. So I grew up Polish was my first language, and English was my second language when I started going to school, but I grew up speaking Polish in the household. And in this Polish school, the Polish school was in Lynn, Massachusetts. Lynn, the city of sin. You never come out the way you come in. That's the saying for Lynn. So the Polish school was run by a church, a Catholic church, and the director was a Catholic priest. Obviously, the director was the priest, the pastor.
That would be different if it wasn't.
That's right. Yeah. But every year we'd have plays. I would get one of the main roles in this play, and we would do it like a couple times a year. We'd do it during Christmas, Easter. We do it during Polish patriotic days. So after every play, the priest would shake everyone's hand, and he would take me to the middle of, the stage and say, "This young child is going to be an actor one day." So fast forward, I graduate college. I took a long, professional hiatus during that time. That's a joke, by the way. Yeah. Funny guy, this guy here. So after college, I graduated and I moved to Spain for 2 years. I got a job at a university, Universidad de Castilla-La Mancha in Albacete. So I learned Spanish. That's my third language, so I'm trilingual. So I signed up to do 2 years.
Does Boston count as a language?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's its own language.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
It comes and goes.
Sorry, go ahead.
But anyways, I what happened was after my first year, because I was a university professor there, a lecturer, After my first year, I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And I remember, now this priest at the Polish school, he died in the early 2000s. So one day, this was in the summer, between semesters, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had a dream. It was a vision.
I had a dream today. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have these outbursts. Can you see?
No, that's
all
fine.
good.
Yeah.
That's fine. So the priest comes into my vision, comes into my dream, and he says, "What are you doing here? You're an actor. You go back to the United States, go back to Boston and start being an actor." So I woke up. I quite didn't understand what happened. I was praying about it. I discerned it. It wasn't like a split decision. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I actually thought about it, and that's when I decided, okay, I think this is something that I really want to do. So I finished my second year in Spain, but that's when I started to, educate myself in the art of acting, Stanislavski and Meisner, and some of the methods and the guys who pioneered what acting is today. And also when I was a kid, my first rated R film was Terminator 2, and I thought Arnold Schwarzenegger was the man. Just riding on that motorcycle, loading the shotgun with one hand, flipping it, fighting the T-1000. I thought, this is it. I thought about those days when I was older, and I said, yeah, this is pretty cool. So after Spain, I moved back to Boston, and I enrolled in some acting classes, and I did also 3 months in New York. I studied in the HB Studios, Herbert Bergerauf Studios. That's where Pacino went, Marlon Brando, De Niro, some of the greats went there. And after that, I moved to LA in 2013. And over there, I studied under a guy who protéged and took over the classes of a very famous acting coach called Roy London. If you look up some YouTube videos on Brad Pitt and his acceptance speech on an award he won, he mentions Roy London and how he dedicates this award to him. And he coached whoever you see on screen today. He coached a lot of big names. And so the guy I studied with out there was his protege, him. So
Wicked awesome.
Yeah.
Are we going to hear a Wicked Awesome anytime during this?
It's wicked. Wicked awesome, yeah. Wicked smart, wicked stupid, wicked whatever.
I thought that was just in the movies and the TV shows. And then when we went to visit for the first time, I was shocked. I had a hard time not laughing out loud at everyone saying, wicked this, wicked that.
You start off your day in Dunkin' Donuts with a medium cream and sugar, a couple smokes of Parliament Lights, and you're good.
Yep. Rosario.
I'm not an actress. I spent time on the stage, but in different ways. So I was a dancer from a very young age, grew up performing on stage, loved it. I love a live audience. Cameras actually make me nervous, but which some people find hilariously. And my parents were activists in the 70s and had conversions after we were born and started reading a lot about the faith, Catholicism. So my parents really taught us about the faith around the dinner table, and along with that included activism. So we spent a lot of time at abortion clinics, praying outside of them, holding signs. We also were taught how to speak publicly. So most of my siblings, not all, but most of us have done a lot of missionary work and have spoken publicly and traveled and talking about different topics on the faith. And so I have a love of the stage. I have a love of story. From a very young age, I started reading. I was that girl that got in trouble all the time at school for talking and for reading. And I know, like, why do they punish the sanguines? That's one of my beefs. I went to a Catholic school. I grew up in Michigan, in West Michigan. And yeah, so I always got in trouble for talking, but I also got in trouble for reading, which was crazy. And they would take my books away, and then I would read ahead, and I would get in trouble for reading ahead. it just didn't make any sense to me. So,
But you were reading books that were good stories.
right, yes. And I love literature. I love great literature, great books. I read them. After high school, my sister and I, she loves to read as well. We would be reading these really thick. She is an amazing reader, reads like more impressive. She read Les Mis, but she read the unabridged version of Les Mis. I stick to the abridged versions. I'm not as bold as she is.
For the idiots in the corner, this guy. What's the difference between the unabridged and the abridged?
So it's more content. They take it out. So she said in Les Mis there was a full chapter about the underground pipe system, the sewer systems of Paris. And she said, and she has goals. Like she has treats at the end of every book. So like I think Les Mis was to see it on Broadway. So she has a goal to get through the book. And that helps her get through. But she said she read, I think it was an entire chapter just on the sewer systems of Paris at that time.
Right.
Because he was, because I think at that time you were paid by the word. So they get really wordy. Yeah. So
Who did that?
But
Paid by the word.
a lot of them did. Yeah. So I'm not as brilliant as she is to do that, but I think that's impressive. But people would always ask us like, oh, what class are you reading that book for? And we'd be like, no class. I'm reading it because I want to, and I find it interesting. And we got a lot of strange looks, but that's, we just get used to that.
Public school.
Yeah. So I went to public school, and there were books I read that some people read for school, but I didn't. So I never had to read Tale of Two Cities for school the public school I went to. Did not. Yeah, we didn't read. There's a lot of stuff I can't believe I didn't read.
We went to a blue ribbon communist state school, so yeah.
Yeah.
We had the upper echelon of the state sponsored schools.
Blue ribbon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So after high school, I did missionary work full time for almost 10 years. And then mostly working at college campuses. I worked for an organization that reached out to university students. And I loved it. It was great. It was perfect for me as a sanguine. I loved meeting people and hosting events and stuff. And so that was a blast for me. But and then from there, I traveled around. The group I worked with does still have organizations all around the world, chapters all around the world. So I got to go and visit a lot of those, which was amazing. I got to live in Mexico for a while, not with the organization, but because of friends that I met through the organization. I was able to live in Mexico for a while. I visited Scotland. I got to travel and experience a lot of the world, which has been amazing, and meet tons of people. And so that was fun. And then I ended up in Los Angeles, and there I was working for an organization that trains writers and producers. And I started learning a lot about the industry. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I did not move with the intention of being in the industry. It was on my heart in Mexico, actually, to reach out to those in Hollywood. And I didn't understand that. And I was frustrated because I'd done missionary work in Mexico with the poor. And these are extremely poor people. And so I struggled with that. Like, why would the Lord call me to LA where there's so much wealth? And one time in prayer, I felt he was saying to me, there's a lot of wealth in LA, but there's a lot of broken and poor spiritually people.
It's poor differently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I'll go. So I went, I met a ton of people, and got involved with a lot of different organizations out there, and started working with this organization in Hollywood. So I actually worked in Hollywood. Our offices were right below the Hollywood sign on a drive up. So that was interesting. Tourists, we'd have to stop because tourists would be in the middle of the road taking photos. I'd be like, come on, we're going to be late for work. So that was frustrating. But Yeah, but it was exciting. It was fun. I got to meet a lot of talented writers. I got to learn a lot about the industry, a lot about storytelling, which I realized I've always loved and I knew more about than I realized because of all the books I've read.
You did some table reads.
Yeah, I did some table reads with
casting
people.
stuff.
I got to work with some people who were doing casting. So I got to read against the actors and talk to the directors afterwards and the producers of, what they thought. So it's really interesting. And, there are times when he has auditions and we have found that it's not helpful for me to help him with his self-tapes because my brain goes back to those days and I want to help direct him and be like, no, I know what they're looking for. And then I get into his head and
You never know what they're
it's
looking for.
it's not healthy
You
for
never
our
know.
marriage. So we call friends
Yeah.
to come and help him. But yeah, so I ended up being a victim of a violent crime when I was in Los Angeles. So I had to take 3 years out for recovery. And then after that, I started speaking about my experience of being a survivor of that violent crime and an earlier one that I experienced when I was 14. And so I've shared a message of having a journey of forgiveness and finding healing in the power of forgiveness and the sacraments. And I traveled all over the United States speaking about that at different conferences and events. And so then later we ended up meeting. I moved back to Los Angeles while I was doing all the speaking. And then we met at a film festival.
And that brings you up to this idea. I'm sorry?
That says meeting at a film festival to people outside of the film industry. They're like, wow, really? That's amazing. To us, we're like, yeah, that's. Which one was that during that day? That was like the 16th, and that was happening at that time.
There's always film festivals.
That day.
There's always. I've been to several film festivals in Los Angeles.
That's what they're trying to say is no big whoop.
Yeah,
no
for
big
us it
whoop.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Outside of Hollywood, it's exciting, but yeah.
So you mentioned
Yeah.
you mentioned starting a film company. So what was the genesis of that idea? Why do you even want to do something like this?
So there's actually quite a few reasons why we want to start our production company. It's been on our hearts for many years. A couple of years ago, we had a friend we went to the fraternity parish in Los Angeles with. He's a writer, producer, been in the industry for 25 plus years. His name is Jim Shaheen. And he mostly wrote for TV, but then he started writing features. And he gave me some of these scripts, and I said, wow, these are great.
Yeah.
I'd love to shop them around for you. He said, yeah, sure. And nothing came of it. No one was interested. And I told my wife, I said, well, why won't we just do them? Why won't we just produce them?
Yeah.
We'll hire all the cast and crew and just put it up. And that was one of the reasons. Another reason was because there's just nothing out there. So I had an agent and a manager in LA, and the stuff that they were making me read for was just terrible. I was praying I wasn't getting any of these roles, that I wasn't going to book them, because I was just keeping them happy because, okay, yeah, I'll do the audition, I'll read for it. I don't want to be dropped by them, so yes, but they were just so bad. I mean, bottom of the barrel stuff. I was just trying to get jobs because, struggling actor, the saying is you'll take anything you can that's on the table. But no, I didn't want any of that. But I still kept reading for it. And, I did some other thing. I did a lot of commercials and short films, independent films. I produced a play. I wrote a lot of my stuff as well. So it's not like I wasn't working. It's just some of the bigger stuff that I was reading for was terrible. It's up until we moved here to Dallas.
If I find out that you wrote Terminator 4, we're done.
What's that?
I said, if I find out you wrote Terminator 4, we're done.
Oh, no. That's a big studio pitch. But anyways, we moved here to Dallas, and I got an agent here, and I was reading for roles bigger than I was than in LA. I was reading for big pilots and big films, and I had to come here to audition for bigger things than when I was in LA. It's amazing.
But
So
even that, the content
But even
wasn't
that,
great.
yeah.
Not even good.
It wasn't good. The writing was terrible. I mean, it's just there's so many reasons why we wanted to start our own thing and have full creative control of it.
And we also see a spiritual, like the Lord working through this as well. So there were many times in LA. I mean, there were times he read for stuff and we were hoping and praying he would get it because we needed the money. And LA is very expensive to live. And so, just to survive, we needed him to get some of these roles. But there were times when we believe our Blessed Mother really interceded for him.
I'll give you an example of that.
Yeah.
So I got an audition to read for a big show on Netflix. It was about
The drug cartels.
drug cartels. This was the version that they did on the Mexican drug cartels. Because I speak Spanish, I got this little role where I can speak Spanish in. So I went in to read for the role. They noticed that my accent is pretty good. I know what I'm talking about, and I know what I'm doing. So they called me again to read for a bigger role. This time it would be the CIA translator, and I would work directly with the main character. So that same week, we decided to reconsecrate my acting career to Our Lady of Guadalupe because it just happened to be her feast day at that time. So we reconsecrated to her, and I prepared for the reading. I got the sides, I got it translated and everything. I got it memorized. I got the character down and everything.
And it needed a Mexican accent, so
Right.
we practiced with a friend of ours who spoke Spanish. Mexican
Spanish with the
Yeah.
Mexican accent instead of the Castellano.
Yeah.
Which I'm very good at. But anyways, so what happened was the night before, I was ready to go. The night before, I was coming home from work, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I lost my voice. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't overusing it. My voice was gone. We don't know, no explanation why. So I said,
texting.
I was
calling
FaceTiming
people.
her, and I said, "Hey, my voice." And she said, "Save your voice. Save your voice. You need it for this role. You need it to read." Okay.
We started texting people, asking them to pray.
Right.
We're freaking out.
Call a prayer, please. This is an emergency.
Water, honey, lemon.
Yeah. We did all the remedies
Yeah.
and everything. So I come home, save my voice, go to bed. The next day, I go to work. In the middle of the day, I have the audition. I go for the audition. I still no voice, but I tell the casting directors, I have no voice, but I want to read for it anyways. Oh yeah, sure. They're okay with that. Yeah. I read for the part. Thank you very much. Have a great day. I leave. 1 hour. 1 hour. I'm driving back home. 1 hour. Not even. Less than an hour. Voice comes back completely restored. We concluded that was Our Lady of Guadalupe taking away my voice.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, and it was funny because we got excited for this second time they wanted to see me, because okay, Our Lady, if I get this part, we promise we're gonna go see you
At the Basilica.
We're gonna, visit you, because a lot of the time when you're on a film set, you're just an actor's sitting around waiting for them to, set up the scene, set the lights and everything. So it's a lot of waiting. So in between that time, we can go to the Basilica, thank her for this opportunity, and leave. Now, she's not gonna have any of it. She said it in that accent too. I don't want you to be a part of this. That's what she said.
Our Lady of Beantown taught to you.
That's right. So we concluded that, hey, that part was meant to be mine.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't mine, she didn't have to take my voice away,
Yeah.
and I would have read for it normally. But she did.
We also have
We
heard,
attribute it to her for taking my voice away, because there was some reason she didn't want me to have that part.
Well, and we found out after the fact too that there were a lot of problems where one of the site reps got murdered.
Yeah, one of the location scouts.
Yeah, and then
got killed for that.
and then we had known someone else involved in the on set, another actor, and we had found out since lost his faith. So
Unfortunately.
yeah, and so there could have been a million reasons, but we don't know exactly which one. but we can see that Our Lady has been protecting us and protecting him from bad content, from bad roles, from, things that cause pain to our Lord's heart and Our Lady's heart.
Yeah.
And we want to make good story and with great talent, and with that will never go against God's law, that will never blaspheme.
Yeah. Even like for example, blaspheming. People say, you take our Lord's name in vain in the film. We want to be able to give the opportunity of the character, for example, the audience can conclude on their own that this guy's a bad guy, and most likely he's blasphemed in the past. But we're not going to vocalize that in our films. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to write it in the script, for example. The audience can have their imagination on their own.
Like the old days when you could a movie could come out and you could write, like all John Wayne was, or all the military movies, the black and whites, that there's no cussing or anything like that. But you're like, how did they do that compared to the modern day ones? It's almost like you have to have a greater imagination to pull that off.
Oh yeah,
that's exactly what we want.
Yeah,
we want to make movies.
And that didn't mean that they didn't cuss. Once that guy yelled cut, they were effing and jeffing all along.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't show it on the screen.
Yeah, and we don't want any of that in our films. I mean, we're figuring out, because we are working on a role with a Boston guy.
I'm writing a film about a Boston cop, Boston detective. Hold on, I got a log line for you. I got a little pitch. I got a little log line for you. A Boston detective pursues a cop killer in East Texas, where the criminal is being protected by a crime ring. That's my little pitch for it. I'm kind of writing what I know. I'm playing the main character, obviously. I write for myself.
It's funny, you can do that when you're the boss.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. That's.
But we don't want it just for him. I mean, so we have, like he mentioned, we have friends who are writers. We have friends who are actors, directors, who have already said they want to work with us. But we want to find unknown talent. We want to find other people who are struggling. And one of the other reasons, why we want to get back to it, is to help all these people who are struggling in the industry and who have these talents, to give them a place to work. And we've been inspired by Andrew Torba, the owner and founder of Gab, who's been talking about creating a parallel society.
Correct. And
we kind of want to do that with our production company. It's a parallel society where, there are certain demands that have been made on a lot of people these days, and we will not be. We're not going to mandate. Yeah, we're not mandating. We're not going to fall into these certain demands that have been made. Whereas for him, I mean, when he does auditions, he now has to say it in his slate.
Yeah, I have to give my
status.
My status, if I've been pricked or not.
Yeah.
And I read for 2 commercials last month, and nothing, because I gave him a status that I wasn't pricked, and I believe that's going to be really overlooked now.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the new trend. If you don't roll up your sleeve, you're not gonna get any parts.
Yeah,
that's for darn sure.
So that's another reason why we want to start our own company.
Make your own rules on that part, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, your little story reminded me of I had a chance to get a job with it was a orthopedic company for trauma. They do 24/7, 365 on call. And it was a guy from the Cleveland Browns from the Raleigh district comes down to see me. He's the head of the group. He goes, I never do this. He picked me out, took me out to lunch, showed me an open foot and all that. And while I'm eating, he goes, I just wanted to make sure you didn't throw up while you're eating, if you can handle this. And it was one of those, it was an emergency. I was supposed to get hired like the next day. So I went down afterwards. We got done with the meeting. Something he was saying was just kind of made me funny. Went before the tabernacle, said, if this is going to affect me one bit, please don't give me this gig. And I needed a job that back then, still do. And the next day he calls and goes, something happened internally. We just hired from within. So, that happens quite often if you ask for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of movies, since a lot of trad world doesn't like movies. I like movies. People don't like that. I'm sorry.
We love movies.
We quote movies. My wife thinks I'm nuts because I'll quote a movie at her. She goes, "You can't remember this date, but you can remember that movie?" Yeah.
Yeah. My sister and I speak in quotes.
Yes.
Of movies.
Oh yeah, conversations.
Yeah.
What movies inspired you guys?
Oh,
We have a lot. I mean, we have a lot of movies that inspired us, and I mean, several for different reasons.
yeah.
So, I mean, some is specifically story, some is cinematography, like Citizen Kane, the cinematography, groundbreaking.
Exactly.
I mean, that's been talked about a million times. It's almost ridiculous to bring it up. It's kind of an obvious.
Yeah.
But
I think Orson Welles really pioneered and captured
Camera
film at a
angles,
different
yeah.
time at that era, camera angles. And
I think the Sound of
acting.
Music is brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, some people think of it as like a cute little children's musical, but I think the story is brilliant. I think the way they told it, I mean, I love it still as an adult. I know we met a couple adult males who love it, who can see.
Yeah, I'll admit I like it.
I like the
Yeah.
meme. You seen the meme? This is me not caring.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
on the hill
Yeah.
with all the flowers.
I think I haven't seen it since I was maybe 7 or 8 at my grandma's in Florida one time.
Sure.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's actually a movie. When you see it as a kid, you light up, but when you see it as an adult, you kind of go back to your childhood days, but you see it in a different light. You don't see it through the light of the kids and the kids.
Yeah,
And,
there's so many
running
more
around
adult themes
Yeah.
that are in it that you don't even realize. Yeah, so I love that.
Patriot,
Yeah.
Braveheart.
Yeah,
That's another
Patriot
reason
was
why-
filmed. I had a chance to go be an extra for that, but we just didn't go. It was filmed down the street from us, not too far.
Ooh.
The
bat-
Patriot, really?
Yeah, the last scene is the Battle of Cowpens. They wouldn't let him on the Cowpens battlefield because it is then what the explosions and all that happened.
Right.
And so they put it down somewhere in Rock Hill, South Carolina. But yeah, that last scene, I grew up about 15 minutes from the battlefield, so that was all in our most of the film was in South Carolina.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, that's another reason why we want to start. We're inspired by people who started their own companies, especially like Icon Productions and Mel Gibson. He started it in 89, 90 because the studios didn't want to, fund his Hamlet picture. So he started his own, and we're kind of inspired by that. And he's done really good stuff. So
Yeah.
we look
Mother
at the.
Angelica too. We find her inspiring.
She's also another.
I mean, she's one who
inspiring
she didn't know anything about the industry and
Nothing about
starting
broadcasting,
a
radio,
production company. Yeah, and she's like,
WTN started a network.
yeah,
And she had no money. She didn't know where it was going to come from. And she just completely trusted in God. And not only did money come in, people came in. People that, a lawyer came to her saying, I'm going to help you. And all these people started flocking to help her. And they created what is now EWTN. So we are so inspired by that, too. We have a little bit of experience. She had none.
That's
And
one
look
thing
at-
we like to see some movies that are good for Catholics and not movies that are, what's the best word you can say? I don't know, bad, boring,
Yeah.
lame.
Yeah.
Like you brought up Gibson.
No.
Yeah, how many people love The Passion, and that came from Catholic Emmerich's book, basically.
Yeah.
And we see most of other Catholic movies are. I remember, and this isn't attacking homeschool kids, but the first War of the Vendée movie, I'm going, really? Of all that stuff those guys went through, we had a movie with kids playing with plastic guns for it. These guys deserve the Mel Gibson-esque type movie for that. For the horror they went through. And we got again, no offense to the homeschool, that was an upstate South Carolina group that put it together. God bless them. We could do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do. We want to
That's
do
what we
better.
wanna
Yeah,
We want to do a lot better.
we want to do Mel Gibson-esque movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some ideas?
I'd love to. read for him too. But anyway,
What are some ideas you got? Maybe that's not even the worst, but like, I would love that'd be like my dream one. Like I would love to do this something like this.
Oh yeah, I mean, his dream would be to work with Mel Gibson for sure.
sure.
There's a couple other guys, because so we're trying not to be Hollywood, but there are a few guys in Hollywood he would love to work
As an actor too,
Yeah.
because I just find they're
and who'd be willing to work with us even.
Yeah.
I mean, so just like again, like we're not falling into certain things, certain pricks and masks and any other mandates, but there are people we'd love to work with.
love to work with Denzel.
Yeah,
really good.
Denzel's great, and
Tim
Roth. Yeah, oh my gosh, he's brilliant. I loved the show Lie to Me. It was brilliant, but his acting was really what drew us in. I wasn't a fan of the storytelling the last season.
He wasn't even
Which I-
acting though. That's the thing. He was just being
Yeah.
himself, which is the best type of acting. When I'm not acting, I'm not playing characters. I'm just being myself, and that's how I found the best way to act. Just read it as I would. There's methods and stuff that you have to play for the camera, but that's the best way.
I know nothing. I have zero clue when you start talking.
You're like,
But like I know. No, I don't. I'm acting right now.
that's okay.
But you can tell good acting from bad acting. Right?
I can tell you watch CNN or things like that. You can tell some bad acting right there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Politics is show business for ugly people.
Oh my gosh, that's another thing. I think that politicians, they're the worst. They are so lame when it comes to just trying to be funny. There's nothing funny about them. They're lame. They're boring. I don't know. That's a different topic.
Yeah.
I'm flying off the cuff here.
I'm almost done with your little script that you sent me. The movie
But
breakdown.
Yeah, we have the movie breakdown.
Yeah, the movie breakdown idea you wanted to do.
Well, some other movies that we love. The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great how really family focused.
But you can enjoy it as an adult too, without the kids.
Yeah.
I love all those cartoon movies.
Yeah. No, they're really good.
The first two.
Toy Story,
Story.
the first one, and even the second one.
Second
but
one's good too.
yeah, those are good.
I like old movies too. I love. One of my favorites is Sunset Boulevard.
That's a really good one.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that one.
Made in the 50s.
Okay.
It's really good. It really demonstrates
It shows what Hollywood really is.
Yeah.
From the studio point of view, from
The actors.
the actor's point of view, from the writer's point of view. It's a great film. Sunset Boulevard. Check it out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. But there's violence and
50s violence.
50s violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a happy ending, but I mean, it's Hollywood, so
There were some good films back in the day made too that were considered Catholic films, but not faith-based. The Mission.
I love The Mission. I know some people would find it immodest, and then I mean, my only issue is there is a line where the bishop is trying to shut down the mission, and the Jesuit priest is defending one of the reasons, and one of the reasons the bishop's trying to shut him down is saying that these natives are still killing their young, and the priest, instead of saying, yeah, we're trying to convert them on that, instead is like, no, you don't understand, because the jungle is so dangerous and stuff. They can only have like one or two anymore. They have to kill. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these people knew the Jesuits better.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah, so I remember
really
Black Robe. You ever
I
seen?
don't know that one.
You ever seen the Black Robe?
Or have I? Is that one?
It's a historically
I
fiction
saw that.
movie on a priest going through kind of like jokes in a sense character.
Black Robe.
I feel like
There's a scene at the
I saw that
beginning,
a long time ago. Is it really is it pretty old?
80s, 90s, I think.
Yeah,
Something
I
like
think
that.
I might have
90s.
seen it in high school. Yeah. Yeah, so there's some great films that they did.
Man for All Seasons.
Yeah, Man for All Seasons.
Everybody loves
Everybody,
Man for All Seasons.
right?
Yeah.
Like it almost doesn't count because everyone loves it. Yeah.
Rudy.
That's a good one.
I hated Rudy. Rudy sucked.
You didn't like Rudy?
Well, Rudy is he was a terrible player. He stunk.
I know. Yeah, he was terrible.
Maybe I don't know. I was more of a Rocky because the first Rocky's really Catholic.
Okay. Yeah.
Second Rocky, they get rid of the Catholic stuff as you go on. But at the first Rocky, it was Catholic all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I wasn't. Rudy was. Rudy. It was a good movie, but what was that?
Story. Right.
What was
Realistically,
there was a kid that he's buried in Denver. He's from Denver. He played. He wanted to go to Notre Dame. Ended up going to Texas. They named the Scoreboard after him. I forget the name of the movie. It just came out a couple years ago. The guy that played Two-Face in the Batman movie, last Batman movies, he was the coach. Man, I can't think of the guy's name. Anyway, that kid was a stud. He played 1 year, had cancer in his knee, ended up losing his leg at the end of the year. They named the Scoreboard after him. Catholic dude. They're showing that they got it was a cat praying and such, going to mass, receiving on his knees, and so I look at him going, I'll take him over Rudy in the draft pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. Well, I like the movie Invincible too, even though like that's not necessarily Catholic, but I like it. I like the storytelling. I like how they leave things to the imagination with the relationship. I think it was well done. It's something that a lot of people can watch and be okay with.
Yeah, I wish Marky Mark would do a lot better with movies. He talks a good game in ads and interviews.
Yeah. So there's a level that people don't understand. A lot of Catholics and Christians out there don't realize that a lot of people in Hollywood will talk the talk to promote their movies they want that audience. They want you as Christians and Catholics, whether their project is Christian or Catholic. Whatever project they want that audience. And so if that means saying, hey, I'm Catholic and I go to church every day and blah, blah, I do this and that. So then Catholics are like, oh, great, I'll watch their movies.
Yeah.
That's what they're after.
Pray the rosary. Yeah, they'll drop something.
We've seen a lot of actors work on a somewhat Catholic film, and they'll say, they hit at like a conversion or something. And then I've taken a break from social media, but I would see on social media this huge, all these Catholics now wanting to interview him and talk about him and be like, oh my gosh, you guys, like we gotta see this movie because he's converting and blah, blah. And I'm checking their Instagram, and they're high as a kite at this party or these events. And I'm going, you guys, it's all talk to promote. It's all talk to get your money and to get you to see their movies. Like, stop playing into their game, And we were telling someone this, and they're like, well, if they say it's Christian, I'm still going to go because I have to support the Christians. And I'm going, but it's not necessarily the Christians who are making these movies. No. All the major studios have their own faith-based division now. Yeah. They're making money from you, you know, so
if a big movie that the studio put out that had a 9-figure budget, for example, it had a 9-figure budget and it bombed in the box office. That same year, the same studio has maybe 5 or 6 faith-based Christian films that come out, and they already have their target audience locked down. It's these Christians, and they're going to make their money back from the bomb that they released. And that's how they cut their losses. And then slowly what they do after that is they creep in their own agenda into these films, and that's how, slowly but surely they start indoctrinating them. So
we've seen it. We've lived in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to even think of some Catholic movies recently that were.
Oh, we basically you can only. I mean, I think there are more secular movies that are more Catholic than movies that are Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that one with Kevin Hart where he's helping a quadriplegic guy out.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That was a great flick.
Bryan Cranston. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
shows virtue and such like that in there. It's a great flick.
Growth.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. There's growth and redemption.
Yeah.
Redemption in it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah. That was actually based that was the second version that they come out there a couple of years ago. That was a movie based in France. They made a version of that, so they remade it with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston, which they did just as an absolutely great job too with that film.
I remember that last Cinderella movie, not the one that Netflix butchered, but it was the last feature film. She's coming down the steps and tells her her stepmother, "I forgive you." I remember Mike and I looking at it going, "Wow, they put that in a Disney movie."
Yeah. I mean, there are people who are trying. There are Christians and Catholics who really are trying to make a difference in Hollywood. And I used to believe that you can, but nowadays that's why we're doing our own thing. I don't think you really can make a difference in Hollywood. I think they're just too much in control, too run as a business. So yeah, that's why we're doing our own thing. But that's what we want. We want to make great stories that show elements of virtue, that show elements of even Catholicism, but not in a way where we're preaching, not in a way where we're shoving it down your face. It's just, we're telling a story. And if this person goes to mass, or if there's a funeral, we're going to show that.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah.
Well, you could show good beauty. What was that movie with? Was it Pacino or De Niro when they talk
De
about
Niro.
that? Yeah, he's doing a mass. He's a priest in the opening part of the film. You can show beauty like that.
Yeah, exactly.
De Niro,
That's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was De Niro and
what's his name? Yeah.
he was in The Godfather with him. You know these names in the back of your mind.
That's all right.
You're on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah.
But stories sell. Stories sell.
Yeah.
I mean, like that holy face image that's behind you. Even like that holy face image behind you right there. You start telling about what happened, and we're bringing Leo DuPont, and nobody knows about the story of Leo. And you bring that in with how the holy face came through with Saint Mary, Saint Pierre, and then throw in Saint Therese on top of that. That's a heck of a story right there. People are they can't stop listening to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By the way, we have Saint Therese here with us.
Oh yeah.
We have a first-class
relic of her. Yeah. Patroness of missionaries.
And we're gonna make her one of our patronesses.
Yeah, she's one of our patron saints for our production company. Yeah. Which we've dedicated to our Blessed Mother.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Even a good movie on her would be good.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, after she dies, she's helping warriors. She's appearing to soldiers, helping ship at sea. She's connected to the Holy Face and Leo.
Yep.
There's a ton there. It was a lot of gold to dig up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to do, though.
Yeah.
But do you like a little setup here? We got got our house enthroned, Sacred Heart, our Holy Face. We've been doing the Holy Face challenge that you've put out.
Hey, there's 3. We're up to 3.
Yeah, we've been doing that every night. So
cool. That was a Father Mateo thing. That wasn't anything I came up with. It was one of those I was reading the Firebrand and going, wow, this. First off, he was amazing. Second off, the challenge he gave. Yeah. If we had more guys talking about that than other things, I won't get into it. We'd be a way better off society, as a church, as a trad movement.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking to me how many people don't know and haven't read and aren't excited about taking a challenge like that. Yeah. But as soon as we heard, we were like, "We're in. Let's do it." So,
but push ourselves.
Do you want to talk about our name, the production company?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's the name?
Called Floweringthornproductions. We named it after Our Lady.
Yes, and that's a title of her from France, Our Lady of the Flowering Thorn.
Right. Not a very known title, but that's specifically why we chose her.
And there's a really neat
cool
story, of the apparition there. So
a long time ago, Roman era, persecution of Christians. The Christians were hiding all the articles, pictures, statues from being destroyed during the persecutions, and one of these things that they hid was a statue of Our Lady. Years later, maybe like a century or something. So centuries later, they had, the Crusades happened, and there was a soldier who left for the Crusades. He died and left behind his wife. Now the widow, she got this huge castle, and she one day went up for a walk in the Jura Mountains, and she saw a thorn bush that was glowing. She at first thought they were thieves plotting in the night, so she sort of kept her distance, but then she realized there was no flaming fire and people talking. She went up to the thorn bush and saw and kind of opened it up and saw that statue of Our Lady. She took the statue home. She had a friend who was a priest that they venerated the statue all night and prayed in front of it all night long. When they fell asleep, they woke up the next day that it was gone. They went back to the spot where they found her, and she was there. So they did it. They said that this is where she wants to be. This is where they're going to be. This is where they're going to leave her. And they ended up building a chapel and a monastery. There. But it ended up being destroyed, overgrown. So when we found out about this title of Our Lady, we were very excited, and we saw that it wasn't taken, it wasn't claimed. So we said, let's take Our Lady of the Flowering Thorn to be our patroness for our production company. So that's how it started. It's a nice little...
Yeah.
I hope I made that story interesting. I wasn't reading from the script.
I'm sure.
No, to finish up...
we have some movies that we can break down.
Yeah, go for it.
So...
We were talking about Denzel, actually, earlier.
Man of
There's
Fire.
a movie that I like of him. Now, I wouldn't really recommend
watching
it.
Especially with children. I guess, I mean, it depends on how you feel. Because there are scenes of immodesty.
Yeah. There's a lot of violence in it.
A lot of violence.
But I was so intrigued with the story because it's about a man who's very broken. He's an alcoholic. He had a very sinful past. He was a contract killer for the government, and he comes to Mexico to visit his friend, and he gets hired to be a bodyguard for this little girl, American family in Mexico. And this man he's just broken. He's drinking every night. He wants to kill himself. But he comes back, he becomes redeemed again. Comes back to life because of the innocence and love of this little girl. And
she gives him something to live for.
Yeah. And those are great elements in the film because it was directed by Tony Scott. And I really like that he came back to life because of her love and innocence, and she gets kidnapped. That's when the movie kind of takes a real wild turn. So he ends up finding all the guys involved in the kidnapping, kills them, tortures them.
Yeah, goes on a revenge bender.
Not biblical. We don't do that.
Yeah.
But then he finds out that she's still alive. So what really got me in the end was that he ends up giving, spoiler alert, he ends up giving his life in exchange for hers. So they kill him, but he becomes redeemed again. So he had that despair and hopelessness. Then he met her, restored his life. The hope came back again. He stopped drinking, and then despair again, revenge, find out she was alive. Hope was restored again, and now finally, there's a great line in the film. Christopher Walken says that Creasy, he's there's many artists, and Creasy's art is death, and he's about to paint his final masterpiece. And that's his masterpiece. His masterpiece is giving his life up to save this girl. That's why I was so drawn to the film.
we wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
Right.
I mean, depending, if you feel like you can watch it, you're fine with violence.
Sure.
There is, again, some immodesty.
Yeah, I saw that 2 years ago. I think I saw that. Yeah, it was. I thought it was a cool flick.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the storytelling is brilliant. There are
it's kind of the movies that I want to act in.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So much redemption, so much, but just seeing the growth and how, he stops drinking and he has something to live for, and he's willing to create relationships in his life with people where before he was completely shut off and doubting. You know, I mean, at the beginning he asked, "Do you think God could ever forgive us for what he does?" He says to his buddy Christopher Walken's character, and he's like, "No, I don't think so." And so there you can feel that despair.
Yeah.
And then for him to change and grow, it's really beautiful if you can stomach it.
Well, that's another.
I mean, even I had to turn my head. I couldn't watch a lot of the violent scenes because there's torture as well. Like, it's not like he just goes and kills people; he tortures them.
Right.
So, when I say violent, I mean violent.
Great dialogue.
But very great dialogue, great acting. Yeah.
What's the kind of stuff that I want to be in? I'm good at playing the cop, the bad guy, the creeper, the kind of like the mobster who's just the silent type. He doesn't have to say much and he gets his point across. Good cop, bad cop, dirty cop. I'm good at playing those. Russian accents, Russian mobster types, obviously, because I speak Polish, or Polish mobsters. Although those aren't very popular. It's the Russian mobsters that are popular.
I haven't met any Polish mobsters that really scared me anytime soon.
I'm writing, actually, in my Boston Cop film, I'm writing some scenes about Polish mobsters instead of Russian mobsters.
Yeah. You got any others?
They exist.
Oh, yeah, they do.
You got any others for everybody or no?
What's that?
You got another movie for anybody?
Oh, yeah. A movie to talk about?
Yeah.
We have a couple. Yeah. So, Joe versus the Volcano. Now, I've known people in the past who roll their eyes at me when I say that Joe versus the Volcano is one of my favorite films. But I don't care. And I was excited when he watched it. He really liked it. And it's quirky. It's silly. There is a cult following. It was the first movie that Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan did together. They've since done several other movies.
And she plays 3 characters.
Yeah. People would ask me, who's in it? And I'd say, Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, and Meg Ryan. Yeah. But it's really great. So it's about this hypochondriac man who has PTSD. Oh, he's hypochondriac because he has PTSD.
Yeah.
And he's told that he's dying. And being told that he's dying actually brings him back to life. Like, he becomes aware of life again and beauty. And he's looking for beauty. He's looking for love. And he says there's a great line where he's working in this horrible place. Everything's dark. There's a crooked path to the factory. And
everyone's walking like zombies into it.
And he says, like, I've been doing this for 3 years. I've sold my soul.
For $300 a week.
Yeah. And
that's one of the themes of the film. That they mention selling your soul several times. And you can
losing your soul.
And losing your soul to something so cheap and worthless and meaningless. And we look at today's world, especially in Hollywood, how people have done that. They just completely sell their soul for nothing. For what? Fame? Money?
Yeah.
So it applies to today's world and today's standards. There's a nice scene where they're driving into LA, and Meg Ryan says, "That's LA, what do you think?" And he goes, "It looks fake. I like it."
Yeah.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
But anyways,
it's a great movie to quote.
Yeah, great movie to quote. Yeah. And nothing's done by chance in the film.
There's so many details that are in it. So there's like that lightning bolt crooked road that appears everywhere in the movie.
Yeah.
And so it's neat to see it and to put together your own ideas of what that can mean. Like, does it mean I'm walking a crooked path to my destruction, or
Right. To the volcano.
To the volcano.
Yeah.
What does the volcano mean? I mean, what's great about movies and stories is that things can mean something different for everyone.
Sure.
So we can all interpret it differently. I mean, there is, truth, but through story, we can all relate to it differently. So, what is our volcano? What are we walking to? That crooked path up the volcano. Like, what does that mean for us?
What is our destruction?
Yeah. And so I love it. And of course, there's like silliness, but even in the silliness, so he has to go to this island in the Pacific, and that's a tiny island with a big volcano. And the volcano needs to be appeased every 1,000 years or something?
100 years.
Every 100 years, and that means someone has to jump in the volcano.
In their own free will, not like someone
Force,
gets pushed in, sacrificed, but someone has to go and actually jump in their own free will to appease the volcano god.
Yeah. So they asked Joe, since he's dying, and he's like, sure, I'll do it.
I have nothing to live for.
Yeah. He's like, I'm dying.
And then after he finds out he's dying, that's where, like we said, he starts to become alive. The camera angles get better. The lighting, he becomes, you can just tell his face there's better makeup on his face. He doesn't look like he's got this yellow, dark circles under his eyes. He just looks better. The lighting gets
So I love how visually it also
it captures it visually,
which is very theology of the body. The spiritual points to the physical, the physical points to the spiritual.
Right.
And so I like that how in this movie you can see it on a physical level as well as it's revealing the emotional journey that he's going on. Right.
And he's questioning too. He says he talks to God and what does God want me to do? So and I like the scene with the indigenous people on the island where the volcano is. And they warned them, they said they like orange soda.
They're addicted to
They're addicted to orange soda. So that's kind of weird. That's kind of a weird thing to be addicted to as a whole group of people. And we were asked, what does the orange soda represent? They love it. They're just always drinking it.
My cousin, so my family loves this movie. It's a family, we can all agree on it, which is I'm the oldest of 6. There's hardly anything we all agree on. But we all love this movie, including some of my cousins. And one of my cousins, Brother Paul, he who's a Benedictine, hence brother. I call my cousin brother. And I, he says he thinks that the orange soda represents materialism and how we're holding on. They're addicted to it. Like they won't let it go, even as they're being destroyed.
Even to their death. They will not let go of the orange soda. And they worship it too because they flatten it. They use that as necklaces, decorating pieces. Yeah. They basically worship the orange soda more than they do the volcano. So it's a great film. If you haven't seen Joe versus the Volcano,
it's been a while. Yeah. So what can people do to help you out?
Well, the first main thing would be to pray for us. We could use a lot of prayers. Yeah. We're definitely a David and Goliath situation.
Yeah.
We're also calling out for people to come join us. So people who are writers, actors, producers.
Yeah, if you're a writer.
Lighting.
Pitch us your script.
Sound. You name it.
Crew. If you're an actor, send me
your
reel, your resume. If you're a director, send me your reel. We'd love to hear from some distributors and investors.
Yeah.
They contact you too? You got a website for them to contact you, or?
We're working on a website, but we have an email address.
We will.
I'll put that underneath in the show notes then.
Yeah, in the show notes. Yeah, it's
so you got it. For those who not figured that out yet, you got to click underneath the box. There's a drop down. It drops down. Push. There's a big thing right there.
All the information will be down there to get in touch with us. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but our email address is
Floweringthornproductions @protonmail.com.
Easy enough.
All one word.
But if you can't spell it, just look beneath. You'll be able to
look at the show.
So a lot of people might not like the idea of movies and Hollywood or anything like that, but we're on YouTube. My idea of this is go where we're needed. And where are the people? People are online. The people are on YouTube. They're on Facebook.
Absolutely.
we got to be where those guys are. So you guys are trying to get something out where the people are as well.
Exactly.
I think movies are very important.
Yeah. I mean, they're the new books. I hate saying that as a reader, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
They're the new books. People aren't reading, and they want stories. They want to be entertained, and so they're going to movies. Whether it's, I mean, even the real box office is dying out, but streaming, everyone wants a movie. Everyone wants to watch something, and so
unless it's Black Widow, nobody wanted to watch Black Widow.
Yeah.
Black Widow.
Yeah, apparently nobody wanted to watch that one.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's a lot of, that's the point too, though. There's a lot that's being made that people don't want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't watch the new stuff hardly at all.
Yeah.
So,
Too
because it's
woke.
just not good.
Some of its stuff is agenda driven. We don't want to do that. We don't want to make woke movies. We don't want to make agenda driven movies. We just want to tell the truth
and tell good story.
And tell a good story in an entertaining way. And you can't, we can't do it so in your face too. That's another problem we have. We want to be able to to write subtle films, to give subtle stories, and the people kind of, they get the tools and they connect the dots themselves instead of,
everything
explained to you on the nose, preaching to the choir. We don't want to do any of that.
And you don't have to give them a catechism class, but you can make it good, true, and beautiful.
Exactly. That's exactly what we want to do.
Exactly what we want to do.
Yep.
Can we use that? Can we?
I want a nickel for every time I hear it.
I put it in our mission statement, and then he took it out because he's like, it's too cliche. Everyone says it. Even the Protestants are saying it now. And I was like, because we looked at a Protestant website recently, and they said it too. And I was like, I know, but that's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, forget about it. Just go ahead and use it.
Yeah.
All right.
Sebastian Rosario, appreciate it. Thank you for guys coming on.
Thank you, Steve, for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We'll talk soon. Maybe we'll do a follow-up, see when you get the website up, and if you got anybody calling in, if you got any ideas coming down the pipe too.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm actually, in addition to the script that I'm writing, some scripts that our friends have that we want to do, I'm also looking into writing a World War II movie about a guy.
Amazing story. But we need to get the rights.
I'm looking at how to acquire the rights for it right now, but
because it's based on a true story.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, hey guys, appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Steve.
God bless you, Steve.
God bless you.